Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, it's full speed ahead to remove a Confederate statue in Frankfort. The effort to end no-knock warrants starts in Louisville, but may extend much further. And we'll get into some sports headlines tonight. All that and more is next on Hey Kentucky. Welcome into Hey Kentucky. I'm Mary Jo Perino, and I'm going to be flying solo tonight. Keith Farmer is off. We start with an advisory commission that voted today and approved Governor Beshear's plan to move the Jefferson Davis statue from Frankfort's Capitol Rotunda. In light of renewed conversations about race relations, Beshear says it's long past due that the statue of the first president of the Confederacy be removed from the Capitol grounds. State Senator Chris McDaniel announced yesterday he's pre-filing a bill to replace the Davis statue with one of Kentucky native Carl Beshear, who became the first African-American master diver in the history of the U.S. Navy, despite having his left leg amputated 4 years earlier.
I think that's certainly worthy of consideration, and certainly an incredible Kentuckian.
The governor hasn't committed to a replacement, but did float the idea of having a rotation of different statues that can come into the Capitol. The current statue will be moved to Todd County, where Davis was born. And there were maybe 3 to 5 people that showed up to protest the removal of the Jefferson Davis statue. So it looks like most people are probably on board with this, as they should be. The statue's not getting torn down. It is being moved to a more appropriate place. History is not being torn down, just moved. There you go. Now, to the developments involving Briana Taylor, the Louisville EMT who was gunned down by police. The Metro Council has unanimously passed a measure called Briana's Law, banning no-knock warrants in the city. It came on the same day an incident report was released by LMPD on the deadly shooting. The report, dated March 13th, cites a police-involved death investigation and identifies Taylor as the victim, but provides few other details, and some are reportedly incorrect. Mayor Greg Fisher called the released report, quote, unacceptable, and said it's issues like this that erode public confidence in LMPD's ability to do its job. That's a quote as well. Meanwhile, Briana Taylor's mother and sister were on NBC's Today Show this morning talking about the fateful night when she was killed and getting a call about it from Briana's boyfriend.
He called me and said that somebody kicked in the door and he thinks Briana was shot. And he was yelling for her, and I was like, where is she? And he said he couldn't see. Now that everybody knows her name, it does bring comfort because we're no longer fighting this alone. It's everybody's fighting for her.
Kentucky's Rand Paul has introduced legislation that would prohibit no-knock warrants across the country, named the Justice for Briana Taylor Act. The senator says he began crafting the bill after talking with activists and members of Taylor's family earlier this week. Kudos to Rand Paul. Sometimes we knock him a little bit, but credit where credit is due. Thank you for doing this, Rand Paul. Of course, another big name from the Louisville protests is David McAtee, the barbecue restaurant owner who allegedly exchanged fire with officers when he was killed. He'll be laid to rest this weekend. The head of Kentucky's National Guard says he believes the investigation into McAtee's death, quote, will conclude that it was a measured response from the National Guard that night. This week, we learned that McAtee died from National Guard gunfire. As for other headlines involving LMPD, Louisville residents are being asked to help give input in how the city's next police chief is chosen. The mayor says a community survey is being done online and by phone about the search, scheduled for the next 3 weeks. Former Chief Steve Conrad was fired on June 1st and replaced by Robert Schroeder as acting chief. Meanwhile, a review of records show that at least 1/3 of LMPD officers live outside the city they're paid to police. And in that report, less than 5 police officers lived in the zip codes of the West End part of Louisville where the shooting happened. It might be nice to have officers in the communities they police to build a trusting relationship. All right, in Lexington, protesters took to the streets for a 14th consecutive night. They traveled up Richmond Road to the spot where a memorial is set up in honor of a motorcyclist killed this week and ended the night downtown calling for justice. Dazon Morgan died after a crash near the intersection of Richmond Road and Preston Avenue Monday night. Police say Matthew Starling was under the influence when he hit Morgan. Starling has been charged with second-degree manslaughter, but Morgan's family believes the charges should be more severe. Meanwhile, there's been a change in plans for the weekend march involving former UK stars Ravi Moss and Eric Daniels. The event that was supposed to start at the Joe Kraft Center has been relocated to Woodland Park, where a protest rally will be held at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. It's among many such gatherings in the area that weekend. I talked to Ravi Moss about this because there's going to be some elderly folks and so many kids that are expected to be there. They decided that walking the busy streets without being able to have them closed down just wouldn't be effective. So this might be an even more impactful rally now that the whole group can be together as one. Lexington police and KSP are in the spotlight for a case involving a teenage couple who says they were unnecessarily roughed up by officers this week. What should have been a happy occasion to cash in some savings bonds at a bank ended with a trip to the emergency room for Preston Gage Sloan and Elena Perez on Monday. Sloan claims after waiting several minutes inside the lobby, a state trooper showed up and frisked him without explanation outside the bank. The 18-year-old says the trooper and two Lexington officers wrestled him to the ground with all three officers' knees pressed against him. Sloan says he suffered injuries to his head and arms and a concussion. His girlfriend said she was just waiting in the car and encountered this.
You can record all you want.
I am.
Listen, listen.
Go ahead.
We got a gold car that's involved in a crime that's occurring in Lexington, okay? And that's why I'm here at the bank asking you, hey, turn your car off so I can talk to you.
Okay, well, you're supposed to tell me why, not come in and try to open my door. You cannot open my door.
You're going to turn your car off.
It was off. It was already off.
Okay, well, you can get upset all you want. That's fine.
I am.
That is
because
fine.
You're approaching my car for no reason.
That is fine. I am here for a reason.
What? I don't know what the they're doing.
I'm sure you don't.
No.
They're together. Step out.
For what?
Step out, or I'm going to remove you out of the car.
What the? No. You're not.
Out.
Why am I stepping out of the car? For what? For what?
Because you were detained.
I'm detained for what? No, you cannot. You have
on a fraud investigation. Just step out.
You want to step out, or are you going to make me take you out?
Step out and cooperate, ma'am. Step out and cooperate. Ma'am, step out and cooperate.
They don't even know who I am.
Elena says she was also injured while being forced from her car. So what did the couple do? Their attorney says nothing. He says police were looking for people who had passed counterfeit bonds at another Chase bank, and he believes someone at the bank became suspicious of Sloan and notified authorities. Lexington police released a statement that reads in part, quote, Lexington police recognizes that Mr. Sloan and Ms. Perez had an unusual and alarming encounter with police. We regret any fear, anxiety, and injuries this incident caused them, end quote. Police say dispatch audio and body-worn camera video will be made available of the incident when it's ready to go. So that should explain a whole lot more once we are able to see the body cam video. All right, now let's talk a little UK football. The 2020 squad continues to be underestimated by the national media. In preseason power rankings, 24/7 Sports ranks Kentucky and Tennessee as Tier 3 teams that will likely return to a bowl game and could play the role of spoiler to teams like Florida, Georgia, or Auburn. Meanwhile, head coach Mark Stoops continues to slowly earn more respect. CBS ranked him at number 7 among SEC coaches, up a spot from a year ago. And UK's offensive line is getting some attention from Cole Kubelik. The ESPN SEC Network analyst ranks the Cats' offensive line 3rd in the SEC behind only Alabama and Tennessee. Of course, he has Drake Jackson also listed as the top center, the number 1 center in the entire SEC. So that is good. Of course, there's so many great returning players for Kentucky. I believe they're going back to a bowl game. We all know they're going back to a bowl game. This year's going to be a lot of fun to watch. All right, now on Hey Kentucky, in case you missed it, a review of recent headlines. Unemployment continues to plague the bluegrass during the COVID-19 pandemic. Right around 45% of Kentuckians have filed jobless claims over the past 12 weeks, with another 40,000 filing last week. We learned of a shakeup in the office of Attorney General Daniel Cameron. It turns out one of his top advisors, Steve Pitt, resigned last month. Pitt made headlines for recommending a controversial clemency order while serving under former Governor Matt Bevin. And Northern Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massey has spent $1 million campaign dollars as he tries to fight off a primary challenge from fellow Republican Todd McMurtry. The news comes as the attorney-turned-candidate has called attention to the congressman's display of a Confederate battle flag at his home when it was under construction 14 years ago. And Brady Industries has settled its lawsuit with founder Craig Bouchard. Both sides are calling the settlement an amicable one. Hey, something amicable from Brady Industries. How about that? Up next on Hey Kentucky, Keith Farmer talks with UK football's Tyler Beisner. The wide receiver is creating a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising money for youth sports. Stay with us.